definitely do that too. Are there any like items on the agenda that require, because we've had similar problems like this before, and if there's any agenda items that require like the 60-day public hearing or whatever, sometimes then that's a problem if it's not actually going live.
No, we don't have anything like that.
Okay, then I started recording it, so I'm still trying to send it live and it's just not working. Do you
Okay.
want to just go with the recording and I can get in touch with my boss?
Yeah, I think that'd be the best option, just in
Okay,
the interest
okay.
of time, if that's okay.
Of course. Okay, then
Okay,
go ahead.
great, thank you. So we'll speed through the beginning part. So call to order. I'm Francesca King, the chair of the Recreation Advisory Board. We have our new director of Rec and Parks with us here. Rosalind, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Rosalind Johnson. As Francesca said, I'm the new director. I look forward to working with you all. I have an update, which I'll give at the appropriate time, but thank you for having me. I'm excited to be working with you all. And did I hear the next meeting you're asking for it to be at the pool? Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you coordinated with Jennifer, or it's already
No,
set
so
up?
that was actually my question for you.
Okay.
So one of the things that we've been working on, we had a lot of new members join this year in the past, like kind of 12 months, right? So we were working on people kind of just becoming more aware and familiar with the different sites and options, so we can kind of just be better representatives. So we are trying to have meetings, kind of our in-person meetings at a location with a tour where possible, and just showing up 30 minutes early and doing that.
Okay, got it. So let me check with Jennifer, because that's before the pool opens and I don't want us to have like a huge chemical delivery or, something
Yeah,
unusual going on.
We've actually done this for many years, to have the June meeting there. And so it's in the evening, usually hasn't interrupted anything.
Okay, yeah, and let me just check with Jennifer. I'm not 100% sure, so I never say yes until I know what other people's operations are. So, we'll see if we can make it work.
Okay, great. So yeah, that was from the March meeting, but if we need to slide that to June for if it's not open yet, then we can easily do that if the pool's not open. So with that, we can be flexible.
May is probably better. It'll be full swing in June, and we won't be able to hear each other. So let me see what we can do for May.
Okay, great. And then yes, if Katrina, if you wouldn't mind sharing, and you can summarize, but we have our Recreation Advisory Board initiatives, one of which is new member orientation. Oh, you're muted, Katrina, sorry.
Story of my life. So just that, as a newer board member, I wanted to create something long-term that would be or serve as an orientation for our members so that they can understand fully the city of Annapolis, the demographics, what's in its inventory, the budget, what the role is of the Recreation Advisory Board, how we can best support the director, and be able to tour the facilities as well. So I do have a pretty well-developed outline that I'll be sharing with the group. And as we start to reach consensus, then we can further develop out this outline and move towards the implementation of a orientation.
That sounds great. And you are clearly the right person for this. So thank you so much. I was wondering, for the next step, it would be to share that with us, like in between meetings, right? Okay, perfect. So we'll look out for that. And then for the tours, we have Casey Ortiz on here as well. And he had said that he could help us with the virtual tour, virtual sites. So that would be great if we could incorporate that and set up a time with Casey sometime in the next 3 weeks, maybe. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, I should be available for something like that.
Okay, great. Okay, so next we have the swim pipeline. So this was the Emily's, which was kind of because of the lifeguard shortages and the vision for that. Do you want to update us with anything there, Emily? Oh, you're muted too. We were all so great before the issue.
It's all our lives. I did have we had a swim pipeline meeting on April 11th. And we had Capital Sup there. Lakeisha Simmons was there. Members of the Penguins board were there. I spoke with the two members of the of Capital Sup and their nonprofit, which is Live Water. And then we had some Mary Kay Connerton. We just kind of communicated by email afterwards. And it was a really robust discussion. The big thing that we've accomplished is that we have put together a swim club for 20 kids. There'll be, it's an after school club. They're leaving from Eastport Elementary every Thursday, starting this coming Thursday. They have varying swim abilities, but most of them are beginner or below, a few that are a little bit higher, and they're 3rd through 5th grade. We got pool time from the county pool, the Riva pool. We have volunteers.
Question mark.
I'm sorry. Are you just talking? We have volunteers that will be coming from, one of them's coming from the Penguins, and then we are still working out the details on high school volunteers. We're having trouble with the high school volunteers because they get out they get out later than the elementary school. So we're working through that. One of the things that we're going to move to next, the hope is to roll this out, with grant funding to all the Title I schools. That's the vision. That's
Wonderful.
the dream. But the big thing is a middle school junior lifeguard, which I think Lakeisha brought up is a way to, kind of get the next kids involved, the next set of kids involved. And we're going to try and work with the middle schools, keep that going. So once I do the notes on that meeting, I'll share them with all you guys. It was just the other day and I haven't been able to share them yet, but I'll copy everybody and share them.
Great. Have you connected with the school system and their drown proofing in like identifying kids?
So 2 of the instructors that are going to be the instructors at the Riva pool are drown proofing instructors.
Great.
One of the things that all of us have talked about, and we talked about this at our last Recreation Advisory Board meeting, is that 5th grade for drown proofing is tricky. And then Katrina was talking about, what they do in PG, the younger kids, and that's kind of our goal. If this program could get rolled out and the younger kids get this, and then drown proofing happens in 5th grade, and then we have junior lifeguarding, which segues into lifeguarding. And there are a lot of really passionate people involved in it. So I think it's got the, I think we've got the, and they're doers. So I think we've got the push to get this going as much as we can. And of course it takes funding.
Great.
We got a grant for this. I didn't get the grant, but the Eastport Elementary School PTA has the grant. And, I connected all these people to help get this going.
Great.
And forgive me, but is this a part of Recreation and Parks programming, or are you doing it separate and apart from Recreation and Parks?
We just talked about it as an initiative of the Recreation Advisory Board. Last summer, the Haka Pool didn't open for a while, and there were lots of emails going back and forth, and I was new to the Recreation Advisory Board at that time. And one of the problems was that we didn't have lifeguards that would work there. And eventually, and they didn't have money. They didn't have the budget to get it open. Eventually, a private donor donated to get the pool open, and then some lifeguards went there. But one of the things that was going back and forth was, wouldn't it be great if kids that lived in the community were trained lifeguards? And that's where the concept of the pipeline came. There's not a pipeline. I grew up with, I lived in a community where I had swimming lessons available to me. And then lifeguard training was at my high school. It doesn't really exist here. So I don't think it's just a city. It is not just a city problem, and multiple organizations need to be involved in solving it. And it's a national problem, right? But it really came out of the Haka Pool. And how can we get lifeguards in that community who can, have jobs and skills that they can use to help their community?
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
All right, so the next one was the programs and offerings from ARPD. And this came up because we know that enrollment has been a problem historically with ARPD. The lack of enrollment has led to programs being canceled. And so we as a board, we're discussing the ways that we could support this. We, are definitely in favor of and advocating for an online registration system to address that barrier. But the other things we were going to talk about were kind of, how we can support. So I don't know if you have this information, Roz, and if you don't, that's okay. You can just connect us with whoever does, but we'd love to hear about the enrollment in the programming for the spring. So we have adult and youth programs.
So this is the first I'm hearing that it's a problem with classes not being made. So that's a new one to me. You guys seem to know more than I've learned in my short 1 month here. So I can check on that. I do know we have a meeting tomorrow with our MIT department to discuss the nuances of the registration software. I believe the registration software will allow people to register for the first time online. The part of the issue is the address between non-residents and residents. When I talked to Brian, he seemed to agree that our GIS people can just kind of drop the addresses in so the system will know who qualifies as resident versus non-resident. But we'll be able to find that answer out tomorrow. So we'll have more information on that. And we're looking at doing some different programming, but I'll wait for my updates for that. So.
Okay, great. So that's a new system for online registration, right?
No, that's the same system. When I came on, I had 3 days to make a decision whether or not we would spend $60,000 on a new system. So Brian and I discussed it, and I said, well, let's hold off. Let's wait another year, because I believe the system can do what we need it to do, notwithstanding the fact that the system we were getting ready to go with, I had a similar situation in Baltimore County where we were going from paper to online. And so my team did a lot of research on which system would work better in Baltimore County. And it wasn't the one we were choosing in Annapolis. So I said, well, wait a minute, I don't want us to spend that much money on a system that won't be functional for us. So let's hold off. Let's save the money, because we might not have to spend any of that money. And we just may have to do training for our staff or get some additional components to the software system we have to turn on some additional special things so that people will be able to register for the first time virtually. So I think we'll be able to figure out our way through that. Brian seemed pretty sure we would be able to do it as well. So we'll keep you posted on that.
Great, that's exciting. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Emily, I see your hands up.
That is such great news. Yay. I did see in the 2024 budget that it looks like there's budget for those extra components that you're talking about. Does that sound right? Or
So what you may have seen was the additional money for training for that and some additional components. I think the new system was 60,000 and some change or something. So it's probably less than that.
Right, it is, yeah. That's
okay.
what, is it a new system? So that's really great. That's a
Yeah.
good, yeah.
Excellent. Okay, anything else on that? All right. And then, the other thing we had talked about last time was using our kind of, connections and people and social media, just in our wards, our communities, to spread the word about programs to help get it out to more people in the city. So we can wait to get an update on kind of where we stand on those, and we can follow up with that afterwards. Okay, so unless actually, did anybody have, I know actually, sorry, there was an update for that. I think, Emily, didn't you work with, I think there were some updates with getting information out to kids.
Yeah, so I can't remember, beginning of the school year, Andrew Patterson and I had a meeting with ACPS because he was trying to get flyers out in the schools. And they were telling him that basically he couldn't do it, even though it's a public, it's a city government thing. So they actually did work on that policy, and I think the board did pass a new a new, it has to be in Spanish, but they can now be, and it doesn't have to be program guides because that's obviously going to be expensive, but flyers can go home with the kids in their backpacks, which I think is something we've been missing for a while.
Great, well done. Okay, any other updates there? All right, so the next one we have is public water access. And I think everybody saw that Casey sent out what they're working on for the database. So thank you, Casey, for giving us the opportunity to add to that. Do you want to add anything about that now, Casey, or do you want to wait until later on for your portion?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I lost my voice. Yeah, I'm basically covering it in my presentation, but I'm fine to go over it kind of right now. It's fine.
That's okay. We'll just wait for that. That's perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, great. And then the next thing then was our the duties of the board. So we had just been discussing how our board is responsible for acting in an advisory capacity to the department and the director, and shall review and make recommendations to the department and director with respect to each of these 4 elements. So they were budget, program activities, recreational facilities, and cooperative programs. So we'll go through each of those, and I would just love to hear from the lead on those, kind of where you stand with that, what you need from us, if anything, and kind of what you intend for next steps. So mine is first for the budget. Had the honor of being sick for March and getting assigned that, but that's okay. I'm totally happy to. So I sent everybody the financial year 2024 budget that was released on Monday, just at the city council meeting on Monday. So I'm sure you haven't had time to digest that whole thing just yet. But I would like to just kind of let you know the timing of everything. So city council meets and can submit amendments on May 25th. So any recommendations that we have will need to be finalized by then. So I'm going to send an email. I'd like to schedule a working session for any members of our board that are interested in kind of diving a bit deeper into that. So if anybody knows they're interested right now, you can tell me, just raise your hand or speak up. Otherwise, I'll send a note out to everybody and you can let me know then. Okay. Then the next one is program and activities, and I have Katrina and Stan on this one.
Yeah, we
I'm
not yet.
sorry. I was going to say, I'm going to let Katrina take the lead on this. I'm too new to even know what to say. So hit it, Katrina.
So we haven't met on that, and I think part of it will be just getting a better understanding still of what it is that the department offers, where there's a better need, and so we'll be following up with Rosalind and a pinpoint member of her team so that we can start to work together on that.
Perfect. Yeah. And I was thinking for this, it would be kind of once we hear how that recruitment, promotion, enrollment's going, then maybe you guys could be the leads on kind of facilitating our support and what needs exist. And yeah, kind of take it from there, whether we need to schedule a working session or do it via email or whatever. So just let us know how we can support you in that.
Will do. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, and then we do not yet have somebody that has volunteered to be the lead for the recreational facilities of the department. So does anybody want to do that?
I would like to take that on.
Great, thanks, Dan.
I'm always happy.
Anybody that wants to help,
I can help you, Steve.
great.
Excellent, thanks so much. Okay, and then the final one was cooperative programs between the department and other public or private organizations. And that was Roger and Emily. And
Roger,
again,
Roger, are you interested in facilities, Roger? Actually, now that I'm
to help with Stan?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I feel like you guys are a good team on that. Just
Yeah.
because yeah.
Stan, will you have me?
I'm debating, but yeah, I guess so, right?
All right,
Yeah,
I'll
I
let
think
you
we
sleep
can
on
do
it.
it.
All right,
Okay.
buddy. I'm in.
Awesome. Thank you for getting me out of that, Roger. Yeah, Roger and I have not met about, but Katrina has inspired me with her plan for, so we will try and do the same thing and put together, the swim club is a cooperative program. So I think that's a really good example of what we're looking to help coordinate. And Rosalind, I'm sure, if you have any advice for us, I feel like you can help us figure out how that works in other places. And I think we've got a lot of organizations around the city that are interested in, helping and working together. Maryland Hall is one of them that I think of often. So I started with the schools because that's what I know, but we'll come up with maybe a list of who we should start to, think about working with.
Mhm. Great. And just for some added context, so this came about because, we kind of wanted to streamline our duties as a board, and make sure that we were kind of spending our time well and, making an impact where we can. So Rosalind, if you have any reflections later on about these 4 areas and any needs that you guys have, then that would be very appropriate and great for you guys to kind of share any needs for support that you have there.
Sure. And Emily, about Maryland Hall, I already met with them and we're going to partner with them and they're going to start doing some classes at Pitt and Stanton. So they're working on that piece. So I think we're good on that one. We can check that box.
That's great. That's exciting. Sorry for that. I am still at work and that's my work phone and no one's here. So it's just going to ring. Okay. So the next thing that we have was Casey's comprehensive planning update.
So sorry for missing last meeting. I totally forgot that we have it every second Wednesday. I was prepared for the third one. I'm gonna share my screen real quick. Just to get you guys caught up on everything. April update on stuff that planning and zoning is doing. There's gonna be a lot of stuff coming up that we're anticipating needing a lot of input from the board, just because I'll get into it, but we have public water access is planning to wrap up by June, July time of this year. We might need some help getting the word out about a community event to share the draft plan as we get closer to the end of the public water access draft plan. It's been really successful, especially with the surveys. We've gone around, I believe 300 to 400 responses and have gotten a lot of feedback from a lot of different people, and are wrapping up the story map tool, which we anticipate more people using than just reading the draft plan document. But we have a lot of different pieces that are going to be coming out very soon. I had reached out a long time ago about program comments. Emily got back to us with some comments, and we reached out to a few. We got feedback from a few stakeholders like Capital Sup, and various stakeholders that we had spoken to around the city, but just reaching out one more time since I'm in a meeting, if there are just any programs or partnerships that anyone has in mind that planning and zoning can reach out to include in the draft plan document. And if there's nothing, we have plenty of programs and partnerships that are already within that we're already planning to include. Just if there's anything on the top of anybody's head that they just want to make sure is in the document, feel free to just let me know and I can include it.
Great, thank you. I see Emily has her hand up, so I'm gonna let her jump in really quick.
Always. Do you have, maybe people that you'd really like to talk to that you need contacts for that, you haven't been able to contact? Because that's someplace we might be able to help.
At the moment, no. We've been reaching out to a lot of we've been reaching out to like various organizations around, especially like the main water areas, like Capital Sup is the big one that like we've had multiple interactions with. We've also
Sorry,
spoken to,
Dawn, could you mute? I think there's sirens going past you.
Sorry.
All right.
Capital Sup is a big one that we were dealing with, and talking about program expect. I'm talking about the programs because originally they were Quiet Waters Park, and this upcoming year they're planning to expand to the Nautilus Point area over in Eastport. We're also dealing with like Annapolis Canoe and Kayak, and have reached out to the Annapolis HACA, just about general partnerships that we're looking to include in the document, and programs that we would like to just tag at the end of the document so that people know that that there is some kind of program / partnership change that we're trying to shift everything towards. But if there's nothing else for comments in regard, oh, sorry, Rosalind, you raise your hand.
Sure, I will just share what I learned today that I did not know. And I had to thank the person who gave me thank them for the gift. But stakeholder is now an offensive term because it's offensive to indigenous peoples. And it implies that they are not stakeholders, they don't have rights, and it stems from colonialism. So I did not know that. So I'm working on striking it from my vocabulary. So I just thought I'd share that with the rest of you, since I just learned it today and it's fresh on my mind.
Thank you. That's really important.
Thanks for the heads up. I never knew that.
Yeah.
Glad we use that word so much, especially in like what we do in planning and zoning. So
I didn't either.
It's something to keep in mind, like a lot.
I use it too, right? I had no idea. So I was like, oh, I do not want to offend anyone. So.
There's some colonialism everywhere. It's so deeply rooted and steeped. So it is good to keep learning. So thanks for bringing that up. And I smile, but obviously that's not a good thing. Okay, Casey, did you have more on this?
Yeah, so planning and zoning, I mentioned it months ago, but we're planning to release, we're working with Rec and Parks, Rosalind, on releasing an RFP for the Rec and Parks master plan. That'll probably start rolling around the time that we're wrapping up the public water access plan. It might overlap a bit, but just that this is something to keep in mind because we will need, or we would like to have a lot of input from you guys on the Rec Advisory Board. And, you know, just something to keep in mind, especially like if you're just on the internet and happen to see an article and you want to forward us something in regards to that, my email is always open and we're willing to take like any notes, just if you want to just like send us a comment and we are able to include that.
Do you have a timeline on that, Casey?
I don't,
Soon.
Eric Lashinsky is much more knowledgeable on it than me. It's just something that I had included.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's really exciting.
So we thought we would be able to write a contract actually from Katrina's neck of the woods, from PG Parks, my old stomping ground. But it looks like we won't be able to do any cooperative agreement based on that contract. So we're looking for another contract we could do a cooperative agreement with. In other words, they've already gone through certain parts of the process that would kind of speed it up for us. So it won't take 6 months. And then we can change the scope to fit us here in Annapolis. One of the great things about this master plan is I don't know when the last one was done. No one can tell me that, if ever. But this will kind of give us standards, looking at our population. Do we have enough pools? Do we have enough fields? Do we have enough tennis courts, pickleball courts, all those sorts of things? What else should we have? How should we be delivering recreation facilities and services to Annapolis? And looking at the greater area And well, should we just focus on Annapolis, or should we use a portion of Anne Arundel County's population and our numbers to make sure that we can support that too? Because, you know, people don't really see the line around Annapolis and think, let me not cross it. So this will be a good starting point for us to know kind of what is out there in the universe and what we should be doing and what we need to focus on maybe building in to do, whether or not we have maintenance replenishment plans or refurbishment plans, and how we can fit that into what we do.
Great, that's
As
so
well as
exciting.
signage and branding is another piece we wanted to work on along with that too.
So building off of that real quick, West East Express, we would love to have a representative from the Recreation Advisory Board. Virtual meetings start next month, or next month in May. So if anyone is available, please feel free to let me know, reach out. We can include you in our Zoom link information, just so that we can get somebody from the board involved, especially because it's just something that is going to be, it's already gone through so much progress recently within the past few months, and we're hoping to get just any kind of input. If you happen to live closer to the trail, that'd be awesome, but are willing to take anybody who lives within the city that would want to go.
Casey, could you just give a little bit of context for what that initiative is?
The West East Express?
Yeah.
Oh, so the West East Express is a bikes and pedestrian trail that will connect the Clay Street community all the way to the edge of Parole. As you can see by by my cursor, currently, you know, it follows the Poplar Trail that will be expanded. The West East Express is going through its design phase at the moment, but will predominantly go through the outer area of Annapolis, and the east extension is connecting the edge of the Poplar Trail nearest to the Navy Stadium to the Clay Street community.
Great, thanks. Does anybody want to volunteer right now, or oh, Dawn, question? You're still muted. We can't hear you. Madeline, could you do like ask to unmute?
Okay.
And that might.
I've got it.
Oh, there we go.
All right. So is this part of the Parks and Paths for People that was implemented many years ago? This continuing this path?
Well, so the West East Express is meant to be like an entire new thing that wouldn't be breaking ground for like another year or so. But the point of this meeting will basically be to go over, basically to give input on the design progress that's currently been underway with city staff and the consultants.
Okay. All right. Chris Ace, although I know she was going to be on this meeting, actually is well versed in this and might be perfectly interested in being a part of that. So just want to throw that out there.
Great, thank you.
And she knows, and certainly she knows the Crownsville parks as well, horseback riding and the like. So just something we can ask.
Great, thanks, Dawn, for that context. Okay, so we can follow up with you, Casey. Just in the interest of time, since we were a bit delayed at our start, did you have anything else, Casey?
Last one, this is the big one. Comprehensive plan is coming to the end of the draft phase at the end of May. Last month, the city council expressed different boards around the city having comments on the document. Planning and zoning is planning to kind of shift a lot of the load onto from the different boards to have the rec advisory board look at certain particular sections so that you can give us as much feedback on, you know, stuff that pertains to you and not the entire document. The city council asked that the document be done by the end of May. That review process will probably start mid to late June, and we just to keep in mind that we will be reaching out for comments on these sections within the next 2 months. And that's it for me.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, so moving right along, the next part of our agenda is the request for RAB support. We'll kind of, in the interest of time, we had one that was just added on Monday because of the city council meeting. So I'll just describe the first two briefly, and I'll just send those up in a follow-up email. So one was a memorial tree program that the city used to run. And I was looped in and asked to kind of provide some input and feedback on that. So I'll send a note out summarizing and see who would like to kind of offer any thoughts on that. And then the other one was, I was going to mention Casey's email that he sent to, which he already mentioned. So that was the request to share the programs and things that people are aware of already. So March 17th, he sent that email. So go back and look at it if you haven't responded yet and have things to add. Okay, so then City Council, after they met on Monday, referred to us a resolution and asked for us to kind of weigh in on it. So what we'll do tonight, I had also, this is about the Truxton Park Penguins. It's resolution 4323. How'd I do? Stan, you're muted. 2343. I'm not sure. You're muted still. Darn, you got the answer too.
You're muted, Stan.
I know, excuse me, I think it's 2423.
Thank you. Stumbled up my numbers. Clearly been a long day. Okay, so this was about the Truxton Park Penguins swim team. So the Penguins had also reached out to me as chair of the board and asked for support. They were reaching out to let me know about the resolution. I asked them some questions, and then I asked after city council meeting to have a representative come and speak to those points. So we have Stephen Alexander, who's here, who's going to kind of summarize a bit of that.
I don't see him in the waiting room anymore. So Stephen, if you are in here and you've disappeared somehow because Zoom is doing something. Oh, okay, he just appeared. That worked.
Perfect.
Okay, I'm sending you the same prompt, so accept that and then you'll be able to come on, okay?
Okay, well, that doesn't help because you missed my introduction. So
No, I was there the whole time. I was here the whole time. I don't know. Zoom is Zoom, right? So hi, I'm Stephen Alexander with Truxton Penguins Swim Club. I was invited to come talk to you guys. I know there was a number of questions. I'm pretty sure in 10 or less minutes, we probably won't be able to cover all of those questions. I am not entirely sure what you're most interested in hearing about, but I would like to cover a couple of things. One of the questions was like the team itself, how many kids are served and that sort of thing. I did hear earlier on this call as I was listening in that you guys have some problems with enrollment. The numbers we sent to you guys, I'm sure, I don't know if you were able to share it with the rest of the board or whatever, but maybe you will later. The numbers we were able to share show our numbers have been increasing year over year from 2018, 2019. There was a pause for something going on in the world. Then we came back and then we did pretty well there again. So last year we had a record number. It was over 140. I do want to point out that this year we're looking to cap at 130 kids, and then we're looking to have 10 scholarships. So it would be 140 total. That would be the max, but we're only looking for 130 to register. Hopefully that makes sense. We feel like 140 is a great number. It's pretty much the max we could do with the 5 lanes that we've historically had the 20-ish years that we've been a swim team, or nearly 20 years. So that was one major point. And unless there's questions, of course, I'll always stop to take a question.
I'll just jump in really quick,
Yeah.
in case people didn't have a chance today to see the email I sent, I realized. So I sent a copy of the resolution, and it's basically saying, somebody could probably summarize it better than me, but that the city supports the Truxtun Park Penguins, and I'll stop there so I don't say wrong things, because
Yeah.
I don't have it here. But the city council specifically was wondering about our just kind of what we think, and then also the number of scholarships, I think, was one question they have,
Yes.
and the makeup of the team.
Yep.
And yeah, does
Some of
anybody else-
the demographic data, or I really should say most of the demographic data that probably all of us would be interested in, we don't actually have access to. I don't know if everyone here knows the Truxtun Park Swim Club was city run from its inception until last year, late last year, or after the end of the season. The city had asked us to take over as a 501(c) for reasons. We don't have to get into all of those or speculate on what they were, but regardless, we became a nonprofit late last year, so we didn't run registration. So we actually don't know that data, like the actual data, what people would identify as, or all necessarily even what their home addresses were, all that sort of stuff. Our assumption, or what we understand, is at least half the team, or at least roughly half the team, is from the actual city, and some other folks are from outside of the city. I don't know what else we can talk about with the demographics without really knowing. We did actually have some age breakdowns. We sent that into you guys as well. So I don't know if there's any other questions around membership. Like I said, it is a growing team, which is really, really nice and really fun. I think there's another question about pricing. I just want to speak to that real quick, because it does speak to the sort of ethos of this team. We are really, really inexpensive as compared to other swim teams, primarily because we are a city swim team. We are a public swim team, unlike most or really all the other swim teams, which are going to be either neighborhood driven or private pool driven. So there's actually oftentimes you have to be a member of that pool, which can cost $1,000 or more, on top of then joining the swim team itself. I think there is a hand raise.
Yeah, I was wanted to ask a question about the minority participation. Do you know? I think you said you have over 140 members registered now.
From last year we had 142, I think, or 143. Yes.
But you're capping it now at 130.
We're capping registrations at 130, and we're using another 10 for scholarships. So there will be 140 swimmers total as the max.
So that answers my question. Your goal is to have 10 scholarships. Now,
yes.
Can you give us just an overview on what those scholarships look like? What does that entail?
Yeah, for right now, the scholarship's going to completely cover. This is a swimming scholarship, right? So it's going to cover the cost of to join the swim team, which also covers the Gazel dues, and you get a few things with that. We were talking earlier today to also use funds to maybe help pay for swimsuits. We're doing a swimsuit drive very soon. So there's not a ton of other things you need to do swimming, like goggles and a swim cap and things of that nature. They're not terribly expensive, but we're also looking to cover those as part of it. But primarily, at least right now, the main focus is covering that $130 dues or fees to join the swim team itself. Beyond that, we're also looking at creating a scholarship for our graduating swimmers. We have swimmers that go all the way up through high school and then they move on. So we're looking to try to create a $500 scholarship for them when they go on to trade schools or college. It was something that was actually important to me. I went into the workforce without going to college right away. I've since gone to college, but right away I didn't. But so I wanted to make sure that we also promote folks that, hey, it's not just college is the only way to be a successful adult in this world.
That's correct. You're talking to one. But anyway, when I had heard that in order to join the team, the child needed to know how to swim. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we are also trying to think through what we can do there. I know the Swim Pipeline is a group that we were trying to work with. Previously, we actually worked with last year a bit, or we worked with a program, I think that was very similar to that one last year, where we helped kids learn how to swim. And then we brought them onto the swim team itself. We had an idea to use that 6th lane. We had talked to the pool, Truxton Pool, about this late last year, but we had an idea about using that 6th lane for that very specific reason, right? Like, here are some kids that may really not be strong swimmers, but we want to encourage that and keep them on the team so they can learn that, or really enjoy that community feeling that you get, which is really, really important. And in fact, just real quick, I want to touch on that. The community is why I even got involved with the swim team. My daughter, we moved to Annapolis for my daughter. My daughter has a disability, so we moved down here to help her with school. Well, she went to this school, she was only one of 6 kids in her class. It really wasn't very social, right? So it's kind of a small thing. So we joined this swim club, and she made a ton more friends, and it became a bigger family for me. Obviously, now I'm involved in the board, so it can get you wrapped in. But that's part of the reason why we wanted to think about that 6th lane, but that's really not the focus right now with our push with the city council trying to get 5 lanes for the swimmers that we have. But we would love to continue to expand this. This is literally, like I mentioned before, we just stood up as a nonprofit. We are just starting to get our feet under us, and we do have some big hopes and big plans.
I'm just going to jump in real quick, just so we only have a few minutes left.
Yeah.
And obviously this came about very quickly, and the swim season starts very soon. So
It
I
does.
would propose that we schedule a working session to kind of go through this in more detail. But in like pretty high level, Stephen, could you just speak to like what the need is from the resolution
Sure.
and like what we should be kind of thinking through?
The need is for the hours and the lanes. These are children. These are not, necessarily all the greatest swimmers of all time. So there's only so many kids you can put in a lane to be safe. You do have 130, 140 kids to train them to be actually competitive. This isn't just about, hey, I can actually swim from one side of the pool to the other. That is really nice and awesome, but we do want to compete with youth sports or any kind of sports that's part of it, right? And that's part of the community. So we'd like to medal and stuff. So to properly do that, we need 5 lanes to make sure that we have the safety for these children in mind, and that we can give our coaches the time, and the hours are also important. So we can give them the time to actually teach them how to swim, how to get better, how to improve their strokes, and how to actually be competitive in this sport.
Can I say something? Sorry.
Dawn?
Yes. So actually the swim team was created 20 some years ago. Chris Ace and I came together on that because what we wanted to do was reach out to the community that was underserved, who couldn't be a part of the swim teams. When my children were part of swim teams, it was very expensive, and I had 3 kids all at the same time. So one of the ways my kids started all that was going to recreation and parks to the swim lesson. So maybe there's a way to tie this in. If there's a way to do 10 to be on the swim club, maybe there's a way to do 10 scholarships a year to keep it moving, on the swim lessons themselves. Not the team, but just start down at the bottom, just like you're wanting it to grow for these kids who
Sure.
are in swim team to move forward and be then, lifeguards. Let's start down at the bottom.
Yeah, we would love to keep working with you guys to create a strong pipeline of swimmers for ourselves and reach into the communities that, like you said, this team was initially created for. That's why our prices are really low. This is a lot of the reasons why we practice and the hours that we practice, where we practice, the cost of the team, all of that is really wrapped around trying to serve folks that need a team like this.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Steve, if you had some more time, I noticed that your time is I think 2.5 hours or 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
If you had another hour, would that help?
Yes, it would absolutely help.
Okay. Now,
but we still need the lanes, unless maybe I'm not totally following. Are you trying to give us hours, but keep us with?
Well, I'm not trying to give you anything. I'm just brainstorming.
I'll take
can't
whatever
give you
you're giving me,
anything.
though.
No, I'm just brainstorming, you know.
Sure,
I mean,
sure.
there's an obvious situation here. There's an obvious problem here. That's why
There
we're talking
is.
about it.
We
you know.
do have an issue though, where we do start at like 5:30, 5:45. And again, the point of that is we have a lot of working families. And a lot of folks need to get home from work. They got to get their kid from wherever their kid might be. Their kids may be a little bit older and can travel a little bit on their own, but they still might be in some kind of camp all day until 4 p.m. or whatever. They probably should go home, get a snack, get something, because swimming, it does take some energy. So we really can't go later. There's no lights at the pool. So the only way we would get more time is if we went earlier. But if you go earlier, it's a problem where the community that we're trying to serve may not actually be able to meet us at that time.
Okay, so I think we should schedule a working session. So for my follow-ups from this evening, sorry to cut you off,
Sure.
Stephen, but for my follow-ups, I have a working session for the budget. I have Trina sending out a document on the orientation. And I have scheduling a working session to kind of dive into this and provide people additional context and just kind of think through what we recommend and what we advise. So were there other action items that I missed? Okay.
Do we need to make a motion on a working session for this particular issue? If we do, I motion that we do that.
I
I
have
don't
a
think those
question.
need motions, but I accept.
Okay,
And I
I don't know.
Rosalind has her hand up.
Okay, sorry, I was looking at my screen.
Francesca, does the advisory board want to hear from the department?
Yeah,
Okay. So let me be clear that we do want to support the Penguins and we want to work with the Penguins. But sports are kind of like children, and activities are like children, whereas the department, we have to love them all equally. We can't have a favorite. So we have one pool, one lap swim pool that the city of Annapolis is responsible for running and maintaining. That pool has 3 sections. So there's I'll call it the 12 and under pool. And so that 12 and under pool is really for 12 and under. And in order to go down the slide, you have to be water tested, which means we need a lane to test you in to make sure that you can slide down into 4 feet. So it goes from 0 feet to 4 feet. So that's one lane that we need in order to keep that slide area open. And then the splash pad is just that, the splash pad, and there's no depth or anything. But the lap pool is 6 lanes. And so we've offered the Penguins half of the pool, which is 3 lanes. And then we will be able to program the other 3 lanes. Katrina, I'm going to put you on the spot here. I know you've worked with aquatics. What is the peak time that the public wants to use pools during the summer, outdoor pools?
12 to 6.
Mute.
You're on mute.
I'm on mute.
Are you talking about during the week or the weekend?
During the week.
From 4 to close.
Thank you. Okay, so that's the challenge that we have. That's peak time, which means that we can't love the residents more than the swim team, more than the residents are the public. So this swim team presents a little bit of a challenge for us. The makeup of the swim team are 53 Annapolitans last year and 87 from outside of Annapolis. And so if we give them 3 lanes, then the public will have the other 3 lanes, which means we could do learn to swim classes during the peak times when parents are home, water safety classes, water aerobics, aqua spin, so many other things. The Penguins haven't completed their registration yet, so they don't know what their numbers are going to be just yet. So they're asking for 5 kind of based on previous registration numbers. Then if we give them 4 lanes, then that just means all of the facilities can be open, because what we need to do is have an adult swim lap lane, and we need to have that water testing lane. So if they have 4 lanes, that means that we'll be able to allow adults in to be able to swim. They're getting off work or what have you, or even, some teenagers who can swim, but they'll have to swim in the lap lane. And then the slide will still be open. If we give them 5 lanes, we're looking at shutting down either the adult swim lap lane or the slide, because we can't do both with just 5 lanes.
Right.
So that's the quandary that we have. And on top of that, we're not mentioning the teens that want to come hang out, swim in the pool. Most kids, at least when I was younger, if my parents were at work all day, I kind of had to stay in the house all day or close to the house, and I couldn't go home until they got home or were close to getting home. And so that's that 5 o'clock time. But if the swim team has all 5 lanes, then they still can't come to the pool. And the swim team is asking for 5 lanes Monday through Thursday. So that's right, Katrina, I saw your face. So, right, so that's a challenge. So a lot of other jurisdictions we've called around, they don't allow swim teams to practice during their peak times, which is 4 to close, for this very reason, because you're shutting it down to the public. Now, the swim team will say, we're the public. Well, you're members of the public, but once you sign up on a swim team, a structured program, then I, Rosalind, can't come in and be on your swim team. So we don't consider that the public for purposes of this. We consider that an organized sport, a private kind of group that you have to try out for, be able to swim and all those other things. So the challenge for us is, and it's for 8 weeks during the summer. Yes, we have a 12-week program, but the Penguins won't practice the first 2 weeks or the last 2 weeks. So it's smack dab in the middle of the summer program time, which means we can't really have a learn to swim program the first 2 weeks of summer. It takes a little bit longer than that to get set up, structured, and organized. Additionally, with the swim team, the parents want to come and watch their child swim. So every parent that comes in, because of capacity, that's one less swimmer that we can have in the pool, for every parent that wants to come in, and rightfully so, watch their child swim and help them put on their goggles and all those other sorts of things, because we have capacity limits by the state. So that's our quandary, that's our challenge. And in order to have a pipeline and be able to get children to be on the swim team, we have to be able to teach them how to swim. And so we only have one outdoor pool, and it's a challenge. So in the morning, we start at 6 a.m. with lap swim until about 10:30. Our summer camps come in, and there's some water aerobics classes and things we do in the morning. And then about 3 o'clock, our camps leave. And then we would like to start with our evening programming when people are starting to get off work. We'd love to do a senior water walkers program for seniors who have hip replacements, knee replacements, because the water is warm and it's at a therapeutic level, which traditionally is 88 to 92 degrees, but we keep our pool at about 88 degrees. So that's our challenge. One pool, a whole bunch of uses. And the pool is amazing. It looks like a country club, if I'm being honest. And so everyone wants to use it. With the old pool, there wasn't this type of demand, from what I'm hearing from everyone, because it was an older pool. But this one is kind of fancy schmancy and everyone wants in.
Great, thank you. So that would be great to kind of schedule a working session to dive through on this. And Emily, I see your hand is up.
I know we're trying to wrap this up, but you mentioned programming in the lanes. Is that something that we'd be able to pull off this summer? Do you have is that in the budget? Would it go in the summer program guide?
Absolutely, yes. We are ready to go. Jen has been planning for it. Oh, I forgot one other thing. We could also do scuba classes, which if anyone goes away, you have to spend 3 days to get scuba certified before you can go scuba diving, but people will be able to do that here as well. But those are some examples of classes that we would love to be able to do if we had the space to program. So that's kind of the challenge.
Yeah.
Can I say something, Francesca?
Yeah, sorry.
Roz, real quick, I'll make it quick. I know we're out of time. What is the capacity of the pool? What have they given you?
So I will ask Jen, who's the expert. I don't have those numbers memorized, oh wait, I do. I'm sorry. Jen, correct me if I'm wrong, because I have it written down because I've been studying the pool. Our numbers, let me get to my picture. Let's see if Jen can mute before I get to my number. Unmute before I get to my numbers. For the 0 to 4 foot, 12 and under, I call it the 12 and under or rec pool. Where's my picture? Jen, do you have that?
While you're looking for
Can you
that, would
hear
the senior program be, the walking would be in the lane pool?
It would be because they could, but the weird thing about the senior piece is the lap pool is from 0 to, I think it's 10 feet or 9 feet. So the seniors would have to walk across all 6 lanes, that 5 foot piece. So we'd have to schedule them creatively so that they could actually walk across.
I'm actually 5'3" and I can't breathe standing in the pool. It's here.
So then we'd have to look at shutting, if we wanted to do that, we'd have to look at shutting down part of the 0 to 4 foot pool to do it. So yeah, good point. Jen, okay, good.
Can you hear me?
Unmuted. Yes.
I'm unmuted?
Yep.
Okay, the rec pool is 303, that's 11 people per square foot, which is totally unsafe. The lap pool is 240.
Jennifer, can you go with the numbers that you feel comfortable with in that rec pool?
Oh, and the rec pool about 125. You're talking about kids that can't swim in that 0 depth. And then when you get around to the 4 foot where the slides are, then those kids can swim, but that's specifically for the slide.
So my question was total capacity, not just in the pool, but I think Rosalind, you made reference to the parents coming in.
Mr. Womack.
That's what
Yes.
Jennifer's given you, but it's broken down in each of the 3 sections and then added up for the total. But I think what Jennifer's trying to share is that the numbers we can go to for the 0 to 4 foot pool is 11 people per square foot. So we've kind of tweaked those for safety reasons. So that's 120, I think you said, Jennifer.
125.
125.
Mm-hmm. The next
and the lap swim pool
is 240.
And she's okay with the 240 because most people that are in the lap swim pool can swim. And what's the other, I think it's 90 at the splash pad?
90. So your total capacity of the facility is 633. But as an operator, even though those numbers are there, I have the right to operate the pool at the capacity that I am comfortable with operating at.
And Jennifer, do you want to share the ratio for lifeguards that you like to keep it to?
On the rec pool, so the ratio I like is 1 guard to 25 patrons. On the rec pool, you'll see that we keep 7 guards. Sometimes there's even more, depending on the circumstances and how many little children are there and camps are in the facility. On the lap pool, we usually have, it's still 1 to 25, but I'll put about 4 to 6 guards up for safety reasons. So I err on the cautious side. The splash pad is not guarded, but we do walk through it to make sure everything's okay.
Thanks, Jennifer.
You're welcome.
Are those hands still up from earlier or for now? Go for it. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. I had a quick question that maybe could be provided before our working session if you don't know it. And I think, do you have records from last summer when the pool was over capacity and what those days were and when people were getting turned away?
I think Jennifer has anecdotal. Jennifer, or do you have numbers?
Yes. I don't have them with me.
Right. I'm just saying, could we maybe get them before our working session that, this is how many days they were closed? Is there a pattern? Is there, when were you turning people away?
I can go back into my records and see if I have everything that you're asking for.
Yeah,
Pool has never been over capacity. Like at the 633, only at the one swim meet have we ever been at that.
Right, but you have to turn people away based on your comfort level of capacity.
Right.
So
which
if
I
we
have the right to.
that information, that would be really helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, and she wasn't saying now, just ahead of our discussion on this would be great. Thanks, Jen.
You're welcome.
And I'll share too, it's not uncommon for jurisdictions to have lower capacity numbers because we are operating on someone else's kind of pool operator's license. And one group that I usually never argue with is the one activity that's the highest liability for the city, and that is operating a pool. I'll even go around, Katrina may remember, I'll go around and talk to the lifeguards to test them, to say, hey, how you doing? How's your day going? If they turn and look at me, I'm like, oh, we got major problems. They shouldn't be scanning the pool the whole entire time. So, you know, that's, you know, it's probably our most, well, arguably it's our highest liability, where it's really life and death.
Can I say anything?
Yep.
Sorry, but I'm gonna give some compliments. Spent a lot of time this past summer with my family, all of us meeting over there because it was just fun. And I think the lifeguards do a great job. Just gonna say it.
Thank you.
And any issues, I'd say something, but it's always been taken care of. I think it's wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Anything else? Anybody else? So I will send an email, and if anybody else has other questions they think would be helpful to get information ahead of our working session, then add it in there. And then, yeah, Rosalind and Jen, if you could provide us with, you know, answers to whatever questions those are. Yeah, and we'll do the same with you, Stephen, and then we'll have a working session. And go ahead, Rosalind.
Sorry, I forgot one more important piece.
Mhm.
The pool costs about roughly $4 million. And to build the pool, the city used program open space funding. And so one thing about program, right, Katrina's looking like, oh, that changes the game. One thing about program open space funding is that the pool has to remain open to the public. And so we are bound by that funding to keep the pool open to the public. So once we close a portion of the pool during operating hours, that presents another challenge, and we're in violation of that funding, which could impact our past funding and our upcoming funding. Katrina, did you have anything you wanted to say about that? Because I know you know all too well.
Yeah, no, I was just trying to remember what the percentage of the space that had to still be open for public use to still be considered public. So
It can't be the majority. It can't be the majority, which is the challenge.
Okay.
Well, I have a question on that. And you said that it was program open space funding, but my understanding is it was partially program open space funding. Does that impact that rule that you just mentioned?
Excellent question. The thing about program open space funding, if they spend $1 or $20 million, it's still the same piece. It's still the same rules and regulations. So the amount of money that was spent does not make a difference.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I think we'd also maybe like to gather a little bit of information about the program open space, because I have heard some different things. The pool was funded, I think it was 12% is the amount of program open space money that went to the pool. I have seen the cover letter for the program open space application, and it specifically specifies that it will be used for competitive swimming. That's, you know, part of the reason they were going to use the funds was for competitive swimming. So maybe we need to do a little bit more research on that, just to make sure that we really understand all the parameters. You know, if there's any, you know, anything that we can, if there's a guide on that or anything we should be looking at, that'd be really helpful.
Sure, we have it. It's online too. With program open space, again, it doesn't, they don't care the percentage. It could be $1, which would be 1/4 millionth of the project, or 12%. And for it to be used for competitive swimming is fine, but it's the peak hours that creates a challenge. We we've offered the swim team, as you know, Emily, we've offered them morning times. We said during the morning, you could have the whole pool because that's not our peak operating time. So we would be able to kind of work through that process. We've offered a hybrid of it. So absolutely, it's online. We can send it to you. But if you type in Program Open Space Maryland, there's their book and their manual that comes up. We've also reached out to our contact there. And the fortunate thing is I've been doing this for many years. So I'm familiar with Program Open Space and how they work. But, you know, I always like to, you know, just call and check in case something has changed that maybe we don't know about. So we did do that. And so there, you know, the interpretation that we have was supported, but we can send that
But
to
did you get anything, you know, in writing that we can see that, you know, that shows us the interpretation of that?
Yeah, we've coordinated with our legal department has gotten that information.
Okay.
And so our attorney reached out to their attorney. So just to double check and make sure.
You get that information from, you know, to see what, you know, so we've got it really clearly in front of us. And then just, I hate to drag this on, guys, but you know, in terms of swimming in the morning, it is hard for the Penguins to consider that this late in the game. This wasn't brought up until March, but I do think that, you know, this is a problem, right? And next summer is not that far away, and we could have the whole winter to really figure this out. I'm just wondering if that's been considered, that it was so late in the game that they were told when there was a contract already ready to go into the Office of Law, 5 lanes. Has anybody considered putting a pause on this so that the Penguins can kind of rework, you know, how they're going to handle this team?
Well, one of the things we offered in the meantime was to coordinate with HACA to be able to utilize their pool because their pool is not utilized by the same like 40,000 residents for the city of Annapolis. So that was an option that we put on the table as well. They have far less residents that they have to serve.
Do they have funding to open the pool? I'm sorry to interrupt. That was rude. Do they have funding to open that pool?
They do. Yes, they do.
And we've confirmed that.
Yes, we have.
Got it. So that'd be helpful. And do they have lane lines or any kind of?
Jennifer, were you going to speak? I know we called over and asked. Jennifer was going to go by and see. One of the things that we would do is we'd be happy to provide the lane lines.
I did talk to Mr. Fisher and he did not think that they had lane lines, but it is a 25-meter pool and I have not been over to check it out.
And I think all these options, a Navy pool and all this would be great to explore over the winter when they have time to adjust. Just wondering if that's been considered.
Sorry, I didn't realize it was muted. Yeah, it's very soon. Okay, so thank you for that context from everybody. Does anyone have anything else? Okay, so I'll compile, I've taken some notes, so I'll compile kind of summary things I think we need, and then we'll schedule that working session as soon as possible, knowing that the season starts so soon. So yeah, that's that. Does anyone have anything else for the rest of the meeting? Go ahead, Rosalind.
I just have my update. Did you all want me to give an update or no?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm actually about to get kicked out of my office, so it'll have to be really quick if you don't mind giving like a summary and then emailing it.
Sure. So Emily kind of stole my thunder, but we've been working with Maryland Hall, or I read her mind, I'm not sure which. So I met with Maryland Hall yesterday. I met with Jackie Coleman and Ken Starks, and they're excited about the possibilities. Our philosophy as a Recreation and Parks Department is to expose youth and adults to as many things as possible, sparking an interest, and they might not be able to continue that interest with us, but they can continue it with someone else and hone it in. So they get introduced to programs at Pitt Moyer and Stanton, and then they can say, hey, I'm really interested in this. Let me go to Maryland Hall and continue my interest. So we're excited about that. We're working on turning Stanton into a STEAM site. science, technology, engineering, environment, arts, agriculture, and math. So we'll do STE2A2M at Stanton Center. So we're starting to work through that process. And we're looking at having teen nights. This is one of the groups that are so hard to program for. So we're looking at this summer, we'll probably have one teen night to kick it off at Pitt Moyer. And we'll work with partners in the teens to create a teen night that will be intriguing for our teens. And next year, we'd like to do a teen summit with all of the teens in Annapolis and coordinate with Anne Arundel County Public Schools to have them come to Pitt Moyer for a summit. And we're looking at possibly having 4 tracks: education, workforce development, Fun City, which is recreation and out of school time, and mentoring. And so we're getting ready to start to pull together a core group to plan that. And July is Recreation and Parks Month. Our theme is Where We Grow Community. It's a national theme. So on July 15th, we're looking at having free activities at Pitt Moyer, Stanton, and the pool for the entire community, so they can either get acquainted with Recreation and Parks and all we have to offer, or get reacquainted with Recreation and Parks and all we have to offer. Katrina, earlier you mentioned the newsletter. We have a newsletter that goes out. Oh my goodness. Jennifer, do you know how often it goes out? Is it every week or every 2 weeks?
Every Wednesday, it's an e-newsletter.
Thank you. Every Wednesday. And so you can go online. If you go to Annapolis.gov, you can sign up for all the newsletters that come out. And it's the Recreation and Parks newsletter. We'll coordinate, and Michelle can send that link to you all. So if you haven't already signed up for it, you can. And Greenscape. We're gearing up for Greenscape, which is April 22nd. And I think that's all I have.
Okay, all right. I'm going to ask us for a motion to adjourn because I'm not the only one here. 2 of us have babies to get home to, so I've got to go. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion.
Thank you.
I second it.
Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for staying extra tonight. And